Though neither of them knew it for certain, they were the last of their combined platoons. When they attacked a few moments later, killing 2 of the Emperor's children from ambush, it was the final act of resistance in the defense of the Principa Collegiate. Transcata, a Mechanicum Scutari, went down first. Her radium carbine smashed from her hands before she was punched from her metal feet by the force of a power maul. They left her for dead in the ranks of elevated seating. And Merrick, the human, fought for a little longer, desperately trying to avenge her. He failed, naturally. He was one dying man against 7 transhumans, and unfortunately, he was still alive when they impaled him on a banner pole, where they watched him twitch and strangle on his own blood. Luckily, he was dead before they set the pole over an open fire and roasted him. These noble sons of the Emperor's Children Legion, once foremost in the Emperor's regard, devoured his body. What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and today I'm back to talk about Warhammer 40K. So as you can see in that first passage, the Emperor's Children are pretty depraved. They used to be the pinnacle of what a Space Marine should be. Proud, excellent warriors, and they even had the honor of using the Emperor's name as their own, the Emperor's Children. Now we see that they have fallen very, very far away from grace. They have been Chaos Space Marines plagued by Slaaneshi, and because of that, they have become one of the most horrible Space Marines to ever meet on the battlefield, because they won't just kill you, they'll torture you, and they'll take pleasure in doing so. So what is one of the things that can actually cause fear to such insane, depraved Space Marines? Well, we're going to find out exactly that in this passage from Fabius Bile Clone Lore. Here we see what these depraved Space Marines truly fear. Suddenly, something new came among them, and Space Marines began to die. Merrick stared in growing horror at the thing that rampaged across the flight deck, and through the ranks of his warriors, a giant clad in rudimentary armor stained in royal purple. The blade it wielded was little more than a massive cleaver, but the being used it with skill and grace at odds with its crudity. The sawed edge bit and sank into ceramite with ease, rupturing the flesh and bone within. A Space Marine was flung high by the giant's backswing, his body unraveling as it traveled the length of the bay. Emperor's Children moved to attack, but they hesitated at the last moment, leaving themselves inexplicably vulnerable. Even those with clear shots seemed disinclined to take them. Merrick knew why. He could feel it as well as they. The hideous, pressing familiarity of their opponent. The way it moved. The way it fought. But it couldn't be. That was impossible. It simply could not. Not here. Not now. His brothers sang, and Ramos felt the Wraith Bone flex and bend, growing and strengthening as it spread through the Bacillus, like an insect in its chrysalis, awaiting the day it could be freed of its old shell. He could feel the ship's agitation as the crew went to war. He felt every stray bolter round as it struck Wraith Bone, and the warm spray of blood. He could hear the reverberations of their chanting in the dark places of the lower decks. He could see the garnished shapes of his once brothers, as they reacted to the violence and moved to isolate the tribal base and access corridors. And he could see one thing besides them. Something impossible, yet radiant. It came among them as they sang, a great presence, heavier than the world around it, so that it seemed to draw in all light and heat. It stalked golden through the lower decks, and its song, so like and yet unlike their own, pulsed strongly in the depths. It was familiar, that presence, painfully so. Ramos had the nagging sensation that he had felt before whenever it drew too close. Their song faltered. "It is looking at us, brother," Escor said, and he ceased singing. "I can feel it. It senses us, and wishes us to find it." He shook his head, and his eyes were full of pain. "It is him, brother, but not as he is, as he was." "I know," Ramos growled. "Fulgrim. No, not Fulgrim. The dream of Fulgrim. The ship whispered of it, of him, and that whisper carried through the Wraith Bone like a scream. Ignore him. We have passed beyond such things. Before he could pull the trigger, something clamped around the back of his helmet. Pressure seals whined and burst. As the ceramite buckled, he released Igori and swung his arm back, firing blind. A powerful blow hammered the pistol from his hand, snapping the bones in his arms in the process. A moment later, he was wrenched from his feet and flung backwards. He crashed into the side of a gunship, denting its hull and crumbling to the deck. Damaged runes flicked across the display as his battleplate began redlined from the impact. He felt as if he had been struck by an artillery round. The giant strode towards him, the deck shuddering beneath its tread. "You will not harm her. You will harm no one." This creature's voice needed no artificial boosting. It thrummed out, filling the deck and stifling the sounds of battle. It was the tolling of a bell, the crash of a cannon, the sound of the sea lashing against the shore. The sound of it pierced Merrick to its core, wounding him more deeply than any physical blow. He knew that voice. Every son of the Third Legion knew it, as they knew their own. The voice that sang in their blood and whispered in the back of their minds. The voice of one who was as much a god as a father, who had guided them out of slavery and into the terrible wilderness of freedom. As it tolled out, the fighting came to an end. Some Emperor's children retreated, but others sank down to their knees, murmuring a name. The name. Fulgrim, the risen phoenix. Merrick groped for balance, trying to pull himself to his feet. The giant gave him no time. A hand caught his throat and lifted him. Merrick gasped as he was shoved backwards, further denting the hull of the gunship. Through the visor of the giant's helm, lavender eyes fixed on him and cut away at his soul. "You are in pain. Let me help you." Merrick cursed as the giant's grip tightened. He clawed at the helm with his false hand. It came loose from the reinforced gorget and fell to the deck with a hollow clang. The face of his gene father stared at him, anger writ on his perfect features. "It simply cannot be," Merrick said, his voice rising to the howl of denial. "You are not him." "I am," Fulgrim said. The grip tightened, vice-like, inexorable. Merrick could not breathe, could not even speak. His denial strangled on his lips, unspoken. He could not even ask for forgiveness. As the darkness swept in, the Neverborn were waiting to greet him. "No," he said quickly, recovering his weapon and lopped away, bellowing for his pack. She grunted in satisfaction and turned searching for Fulgrim. She caught sight of him striding through the press of battle, his blade reaping a red toll. Only the most debased of the Emperor's children tried to stand in his way, and these fell quickly enough. All of his uncertainty was gone now. He rampaged among them, killing them with grace, but there was an anger there as well, a burning resentment of those he fought, as if by their very existence they insulted him. He had not truly seen them for what they were, but now he knew, and he roared in fury as he killed them. But not all of them, only some, only a few. The rest retreated. They fled, driven from his path by some ancient instinct, not quite self-preservation, but something else. As she stalked in his wake, her kin followed warily. She saw a purple-armored space marine crumpled next to a control cradle, his head in his hands. Multicolored tears streaked his features as she looked up blankly. She pressed her weapon to his scalp. Is it him? Why has he come back? Why is he angry with us? We have only ever served him. The words came out as tortured moans, and the renegade groped at her, as if seeking comfort. Why has he forsaken us? "You were weak," she said flatly, and pulled the trigger. His body slid away, twitching. Not all of them were so affected. Some merely watched in stupefied awe, as if an enrapturing performance was appearing before them. Others simply sought escape, falling back to the internal bulkheads and hatchways. One or two barreled their necks to the chopping blade, laughing as they died. She did not understand, and she didn't want to. Whatever sickness was in them that made them this way was better a mystery. The thing turned with startling grace, and deftly beheaded a warrior who sought to attack it from behind. Alcanex's heart turned to lead in his chest. He knew that fighting style, as well as he knew his own. No, that is simply impossible. A thick phlegm-laced laugh from Arian startled him. The World Eater lunged. What's the matter, duelist? Can't trust your own eyes? Alcanex glared at him as their blades locked. What is that thing? Tell me! He beat aside the apothecary's blades. Some form of war beast? He demanded desperately. Even if he said the words, he knew it wasn't. It was something else. Something he refused to see. War God. Don't tell me you don't recognize him. I do, and I'm not even one of you. Arian staggered back, breathing harshly. Look at him, fool. Look and see. Alcanex turned back. The stairs shook and the platform was them, as the being ascended, driving his warriors before it. Emperor's children spilled up into the platform, scrambling backwards, their voices raised in a babble of incomprehension. Alcanex lifted his sword, ready to face whatever horror Fabius' servants had unleashed. Arian forgot for the moment. When it reached to the top, he finally understood what his senses had been trying to tell him. No, he said hoarsely. The creature stopped. It planted its sword into the deck in that oh-so-familiar way, as good as a signature that flourished it. It reached up as if to remove the helmet. Don't, Alcanex said, his tone almost pleading. Please, don't. And with that being said, that is the end of this excerpt from Fabius Bile, Clone Lord. So as you can see here, Fabius Bile has been trying to recreate the fallen Primarch, and he's made clones of Fulgrim time and time again. But one of the things that differentiates these clones of Fulgrim from the actual Slaaneshi Fulgrim is that these clones are pretty much always loyal to the Emperor. They don't adhere to chaos, and they are doing anything and everything in their power to fight against the blasphemies of what his children have become. So here we see that even a clone of a Primarch is way more than a match for these Space Marines. More so because of the fear and the hesitation they have when they see their lord in front of them. But at the same time, we see him crushing Space Marines' armor like nothing, beheading them with ease. Like, this guy is no joke. But with that being said, guys, that is the end of this video here, and we see that even though these Space Marines are pretty horrible when it comes to the atrocities they commit, there's no saying that they fear their progenitor, their father, their Primarch. And here we see just how strong a cloned Primarch can be. So again, guys, thank you for watching, listening, commenting, and subscribing. Please let me know your comments down below as to what you thought about this passage, and if there's any other excerpts you want me to talk about, or any other lore you want us to cover. And as always, it's been the Silent Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Oh, if you could put my